Happy Friday, Ron.
Happy Friday. Cannot believe it's Friday.
Yeah, we just went live 5 minutes ago, and it was a bust. It was a fake out. We got you. We just went live, and we had a technical glitch, and that sometimes happens. But happy Friday. I am in my house. We're getting ready for the snowstorm tomorrow. Ron, you're not in your house getting ready for the snowstorm tomorrow. What you doing?
Yeah, more snow.
We do. There's supposed to get, last weekend was a huge ice storm. This weekend, it's not so much ice, but snow. I think we're supposed to get 5 to 7 inches.
How great is that? And do you guys go do snowmen or snow angels or
Good question. Last time it snowed here was about 4 years ago, and there really wasn't enough to make a snowman. And then the time before that, I think it was 2014 or 15. So all new.
sign your name in the snow? Any of that stuff?
I might pee in the snow. How's that?
That's how you sign your name there, dude.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, a little slow. We're going live earlier than we usually do, so a little slow this morning.
Yeah, so David, I'm 6 hours ahead of you, so it's late, not late today, it's late afternoon here, and I'm on my best behavior is because I'm on a cruise ship somewhere in between off the coast of Spain and Morocco, in between the two, and I've had to throttle my cruise drinking in order to be present in today's conversation.
I think next weekend or next week when we go live, you're still going to be on a cruise ship. I think you should have the opposite strategy next week.
I can go live from one of the 17 lounges. I'll be my own lounge act.
Yeah, just carry your phone around the cruise ship while we're doing the podcast. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll set up. Well, dude, I'll set up anywhere. I can I
All
can
right.
be a man on the street. I can meet people walking by.
Well, we're having a bit of a connection issue, Ron. So just FYI, there's a little bit more of a delay than we usually have. That's because you're halfway around the world. So we'll just be conscious of that, not to talk over each other. And with that, let's go over our topics for today. So the first thing that I'm going to go over is my From the Gut series. There's a guy on YouTube that I came across about 2 months ago, and I've just been obsessed with him. So I'm going to tie that into a branding lesson, and then we're going to get into the more boring topics that Ron loves. Just that is a joke. Take it away, Ron.
AI and mortgage lending. This is a giant report that HousingWire released earlier this week, and they're super proud of it. It's going to be fun to look at it, Dave, because we're probably going to have, I don't want to say a more critical eye, but a different viewpoint.
All right. Oh, did you hear the news? Speaking of AI, did you hear the news that Elon Musk announced that they're discontinuing their S and their X models, and they're doing it for the purpose of turning those factories into Optimus factories instead of car factories?
I did read that news this morning, and I was a little confused by it. But I thought when I read it, I go, "You must be super excited because you cannot wait to have your Optimus slave."
I'm super excited. Can't wait. All right, next
Their
topic.
factory in Fremont.
Oh,
Go Broker. This is really we're going to talk about a Gray Shear LinkedIn post where he just kind of posed not what's better, but what's better for you. And so we'll roll out a little kind of thoughts on Broker or IBM. And I think it'll be an interesting conversation.
okay. And then
Homeownership rate by age and ethnicity. This is such a good topic because we're going to talk about the overall what's a good homeownership rate, and then we're going to talk about normatively what's normative means, what should it be versus what is it, and we're going to break it down by some of these different tranches, which I think will be surprising.
Yep. And then we've got a handful of From the Gut topics and a AI tip of the week. So with that, like I said, I do have a From the Gut topic. So let's get into that. All right. Build what you love. That's the title for today's From the Gut. There's a video, I think it's about a 4-minute video playing down below just to give you an idea of who I'm talking about. But have you ever come across a YouTube channel and you just instantly feel what's calm? There's a YouTube channel called Outdoor Boys, and that's what that does for me. There's a guy named Luke. He's just a normal looking dude, little bit goofy to be honest, but normal looking dude. If you've never seen his videos, you'd never know it's a guy with 19 million YouTube subscribers. He's made millions of dollars from his video, but he's the furthest thing from a Mr. Beast or Jake Paul or any of the other typical top YouTubers with big personalities. He doesn't rely on gimmicks or clickbait or over the top production. He is just a guy in the woods, sometimes with his kids, building rafts, cooking over a fire, building shelters, or camping in some frozen place that you'd never catch me in. He builds igloos. He does cook the most amazing bread. Ron, you should watch one of them just to get his bread recipe. But so no over the top outlandish stuff like a Mr. Beast or Jake Paul, but millions of people watch. Before his rise to fame, he was a lawyer and he shot videos of himself with a GoPro, sometimes with his kids, just him fishing, talking to a camera, typically a GoPro, not even an expensive camera. He'd do it on the weekends and in his spare time just because he enjoyed doing it. He's extremely humble, a down to earth guy. And initially, I don't think he was trying to become famous, but he did. And why? It's because he's real. He's just being himself and he's doing something that he loves to do. And so much so that he actually announced last year that he was retiring from YouTube because became so famous and he was starting to get a little nervous about his family's safety and security. Everywhere he would go now, people would recognize him. He's just a guy doing what he loves consistently, authentically, patiently, and somewhere along the way, his audience came to him. He built an empire, one campfire, one busted raft at a time, and he's built up this amazing YouTube channel. And somewhere along the way, or he built an empire, and I think that's the lesson there because that's I'm getting all muddled up. That's a lesson that I learned in that because I've somewhat done that myself. I haven't grown to millions of subscribers or made millions off YouTube, but before I ever worked in marketing or branding, before it became a career or a business for me or anything even remotely professional, it started for me. What I do now is a hobby. Back in 2007, I picked up a video camera and started making videos. At this time, there was no TikTok. YouTube wasn't the animal or the beast that it is now, and there weren't content influencers or ad revenue or brand deals, or at least not in the way we think about it today. I just loved doing what I did, creating videos. I wasn't doing it for the clicks, I wasn't doing it for the virality or SEO or shares. I did it because it just lit me up. And here's what happened. That hobby for me, it turned into a passion. That passion, it turned into a side hustle. And eventually that side hustle became the career that I have now, helping people tell their stories and build their brands and show up online in a way that actually connects. Not necessarily by being the loudest, but by being genuine, by being creative and honest and vulnerable, not scared to try something new or copying or following other companies and doing it a certain way because that's how it's supposed to be done. After just about 5 years in the mortgage industry back in 2015, maybe 2016, somewhere along the way, that quiet little company that I helped build and brand, the thing the thing I didn't create for anyone other than myself or my boss at the time in the company, it became one of the most recognizable brand voices in the space. People started copying it. They started copying our website, our email campaigns, our videos, our designs, our merch, you name it. But you know what they couldn't copy? They couldn't copy the why behind it or the consistency or the evolution that we had and the passion that me and my had team for what we were doing. That's what the Outdoor Boys reminds me of, because building a brand or building a real brand isn't about how loud you are or how fast you grow. It's not necessarily about 10 trends or tactics or chasing attention. It's about trust. It's about time. It's about making stuff you love over and over, even when no one's watching yet. And sure, you can get inspired by others. You should be. We all learn that way, but don't build someone else's voice. Build your voice and trust that the right people will find you, hopefully, eventually, as long as you keep showing up. Because whether you're like Luke in a tent in Alaska or you're just trying to stand out in an industry full of noise, the secret isn't necessarily going viral. It's doing something you love and doing it with passion and telling people about it. That's how you grow. That's how you brand. Ron.
Dave, that was another awesome from the gut, man. I enjoy these so much. I listen to you. I go, why don't we just do that for like an hour? And by the
I
way,
could,
I'm
yeah.
also who the heck figured out the picture in picture video? That's great too. But your
Eh,
topic was awesome.
yeah. Have you ever seen his videos?
No, no.
I literally, I do a lot of sometimes brainless work in front of my computer, and anytime I do that, I've just got videos just playing off on the side that you don't necessarily have to watch, and you can mostly listen. And there was nothing but his videos on for about 2 weeks straight in my office.
Oh, that looked terrific. I do the same thing, but I probably listen to different content.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
But that was awesome.
you listen to you ingest a lot of books.
Yeah, books, yeah, and talks. But that was awesome, dude. I totally appreciate that. And
Yeah.
you were copied, as I tell you all the time. I copied you. I had companies copy you.
I've been told that many times
Yeah,
by
well,
industry
yeah.
peers. Yes. All right. So if you haven't checked him out, check him out. YouTube, Outdoor Boys. He has a great channel. So let's move on to our more meaty subjects. What is our first one? It is AI and mortgage.
Yeah, and once again, this was a Housing Wire came out with the report, AI Mortgage. I know they were super proud of it, and I was glad to read it. It was a survey, mostly C-suite, you know, lenders, IMBs. They kind of asked, "What's the state of AI in your company? What's your strategy? Where are you headed? What's the obstacles? And what's your outlook?" Which was very interesting. And David, I think you and I gleaned something different than what the report intended. And the report, it said all the regular things like, okay, we're having a hard time with adoption, we're having a hard time with the technology, we're having a hard time with the expertise, we're having a hard time with ROI, we're having a hard time getting our vendors to actually deliver what they're promising. Like, we don't know how to make choices, we don't know how to afford it. Like, all those are super big questions that every IMB has to answer. But what the report really failed on in two ways, and I'm eager to get your opinion, David, is one, there was no presence of sales or customer optimization, customer experience. There was hardly a mention of that. It was all about security, compliance, operations, processing, underwriting, right? It's all about that kind of stuff, not how do I generate one more loan or how do I delight the customer, which to me was a very tone deaf report. And David, I know you and I are going to cover a totally different report from Stratmore next week, which takes a totally different view, which I think will be much more exciting. But my favorite thing of reading through this 15-page report, which is really well done and great job, Housing Wire, and I think that was sponsored by Doc Magic. I mean, great job. I appreciate the report. I shared it widely. I posted on it. But my favorite part, and I think we have this, McKenna, let's start looking at what slides we have because I really want to get to my favorite part. All right, this is just, AI investment across mortgage operations. Of course, these leaders say, yes, we're investing in AI, of course. And then the next slide. And then at current state of AI implementation maturity, and it's the thing, they're trying and it's not working quite yet. And here's the thing too, by the way, David, the number one obstacle, by the way, it's a big obstacle, and especially with mid-size, smaller IMBs, AI doesn't work unless you can digitize your data. If you don't digitize it, it can't understand it, right? So if you don't own your data, if you don't own the information, and if you can't collect it in a way that AI can actually start to help you, it becomes a huge barrier. And so a lot of these companies, they can't even get to go because they don't know how to digitize their data. They don't know how to build data centers. They don't know how to data warehouse their own information, or their vendors. They rely on their vendors for warehousing information. They don't have access to it, which is crazy. A lot of these contracts with ICE, you don't have access to your own data, which is unbelievable. So you have to do reverse data sharing, which gets kind of complicated. But that was the number one challenge they have. But let's go to the next one. I want to get to my favorite one of the whole thing. Yeah, of course, they're going to invest more, but they're unsure how to do it. They want to invest through their current vendors. Just I'll hold my editorial for a second. Let's keep going. All right. Well, we're almost. See, here again, high potential areas for AI across the loan cycle. Do you guys see sales anywhere? Do you see sales on this chart? Like, the best companies in our space that use AI. You're talking about whether it's UWM with Mia or it's Rocket Mortgage. They're using it to drive sales. I think Guild is doing that. Rates working on that. They're doing it to drive sales, not to manage risk management. I mean, which is incredible. Let's go another slide though. Up. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I want to go. I want to get to the last slide because I'm trying to get to the punchline. My favorite slide of the whole thing. So the most significant barriers to AI adoption, and I want to remind you who filled out the surveys: C-suite, mortgage lenders, right? C-suite people, right? They go, "Oh my gosh, security, lack of expertise," which is really true. Difficulty in integrating different systems, regulatory uncertainty, although that really shouldn't be a problem, in my opinion. Concern about costs, of course. Don't understand the return on investment, resistance from technology, right? You know what's not an issue is the expertise or vision of the senior leadership. So when they surveyed senior leaders, they said, by any chance, is any of the problem rolling out AI you, right? They said, no, of course not. 0% said it's me. 0%. 100% said, nope, I'm the magic, not the one in the way, right? And David, I think you've heard me say this from Sage, if not, I've told you a million times. One of my favorite thoughts about technology and AI, if the ultimate person that controls your technology decisions, which by the way isn't usually the owner, usually it's a CFO, it's someone like that, it's some 65-year-old white dude who learned their AI on a Selectric typewriter. If that's who you give the veto vote to, you are screwed. Just sell your company and do something else, retire, because that guy can't take you into the future. I promise you that, right? And that's where many companies have the ultimate decision maker. I mean, they have the young people in technology, they got young people in marketing, they even maybe got some young junior executives. But the dude that finally scratches on the line, yep, we're going to pay $10 million for that, says, my Selectric typewriter really didn't help me type faster, right? And that's his whole, that's his informative years. You are screwed. I'm just telling you that. David, what do you think?
Where so when this survey was taken, were they given these questions, do you think? And that's why the last one there got 0%?
I think that they were able to. I think they could choose multiple ones. I actually think this is Housing Wire kind of, in a subtle way, bringing light to this.
Yeah.
No owner thinks they're the problem, right? And yet, but here's what happens with an owner, right? If you're a hotshot owner and you built a multi-million, $100 million, billion-dollar company, you're great at sales, you're great at driving, you're a visionary, you're type A. That's not the type that's going to be excited about. Let's see how we can get AI to work in our company. So you're going to delegate that, right? And so you're delegating to people that are interested in it, but then you're going to put your confident, CFO type of guy, treasurer, or something like that in charge of it for you. You know what I mean? And so they're not participating at the level they needed to drive it. Like think of Varun at Rocket, right? That guy is tingly about AI. I mean, he was hired as from a technology company, right? He's involved in that, right? And then think about ABC Mortgage, some legacy leader. He doesn't care about. I mean, he wants to do it. He wants to invest, but he doesn't know how. It's all baffling. And this is this is probably the greatest difficulty that owners and leaders had to face. How do I lead my company into the future? How do I get ROI, right? How do I get buy-in? How do I get alignment? Right? Because it's another thing. Legacy loan officers, they don't like new stuff. Like if you work at Rocket, you go, hey, come work at Rocket. You're going to do more volume than ever. You're going to make more money than ever, but you're going to do it our way. You just have to do it our way, right? If not, don't come here. We don't need you. If you're a legacy IMB, it's like, okay, we're going to accommodate whatever you want. And you can't have tech standards in that environment, right? And so then it's hard to lead your company into the future, even though you know if you don't do it, you aren't viable in the future. It's a very tricky, problem for owners to solve.
McKenna, pull that last slide up, please. You kind of mentioned this yesterday, Ron, when we were talking about it. But I think it's a little bit more clear to me now. Now that I've just been thinking about it, you hinted on it or even talked about it, but I think there is a case of tech burnout from the leadership, and all of these things on here. Gosh, my eyesight's getting so bad, but all of these items on here are very operational driven, and we know that mortgage companies are a sales centric company. Loan officers kind of steer the ship typically, and all of the tech new companies that have come out in the last 10 to 15 years, the they've basically gone to companies and said, I'm not coming to your company unless you have this tech and that tech and this tech. And then, a lot of companies, and I've been at one myself, where you completely overhaul your tech suite and just to attract loan officers, so you can say that we've got the same tech stack as, ABC company over there. And then you invest millions of dollars into it, and just the buy-in on the adoption rate on that tech from the sales side, is just abysmal. And so I think maybe how much of that has to do with this, Ron, that there's just tech burnout on the leadership side.
Yeah, David, you bring up a really some good points. It's a very complicated question, and it goes to what's the value proposition of your company, what's your standards, and how much influence do you actually have over your employees. And what you bring up, David, is two different things. The first thing is we've been overpromised what tech is going to deliver for the last 30 years, led by ICE. Overpromised, underdelivered. And I would put Salesforce and Total Expert, I'd put a whole long list of people that promised nirvana, unbelievable profits, unbelievable ROI. This is going to change our lives. And then this, I'm going to use a bad word, then this stuff never worked. That's the truth, right? And so now we're actually in a complete evolution of technology. And to your point, we've been burned out. We're jaded. Like, yeah, I've been told this is going to change my life 50 times already in the last 10 years. I don't believe you. But this time it's true, right? And so it's hard to let all that scar tissue from the past where you've spent millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of $1 million on this magical tech that didn't deliver and go, okay, I'm going to be an optimist. This time's going to work. But you really have to do that, right? And then the second thing you bring up, David, which is adoption. Lack of adoption is the number one expense line on any IMB's P&L by far, right? I buy a $2 million program a year and 10 people use it. Holy smokes. It's not only the expense I just wasted, but it's the opportunity cost of not using it to further your business, right? And David, you know this from a marketing standpoint. How many marketing programs have you come up and go, hey, hello, we got this great client retention program, this great journey, we have this good outreach. And the prima donna loan officer goes, you're not talking to my clients. You're not having that machine call my clients. That is horrible. You can't do that. I'd rather nobody ever talks to my client, including me. Like, what? You haven't talked to those people in like 20 years. Like, what's wrong with you, right? And those are all makes it a very complicated issue.
Yeah. You want to go to the next one where we're talking about
I
brokers,
do.
brokerages,
I do.
1099s?
I
Lead the
do.
way.
I have a lot of affinity for Greg. Greg is a terrific leader in the lending community. He posts frequently, has a big following. He doesn't. He's not controversial for controversial sake, but he has no problem about bringing up a topic that is going to get a reaction. He doesn't have a problem taking a position on it. So he's been battling with brokers. As a matter of fact, he came up with a campaign. I want to say about 2 years ago, something like "We're All One." It was something like that. He had like tens of thousands of T-shirts made, and he gave them away. Meaning that whether you're a bank or a credit union or a broker or an IMB, we all serve the same client. We all have the same goals. We all want to help forward, the dream of home ownership and the related wealth to it. Uh, but he was talking about trying to recruit against brokers who, really, sell the juice, of what can happen, and that is, look, you're going to be self-employed. You have autonomy. You have complete freedom. You earn more money, right? Kind of thing. And Greg didn't question whether broker is the right channel or not. He said, "Are you really self-employed if your company dictates marketing, compliance, pricing, expenses?" He goes through the whole list. If they control all those things, do you really feel like you're self-employed? Really? And by the way, um, if you don't have freedom of those things, you're probably skirting quite a few federal and state laws on whether it's legal or not, right? Because you know, are you an employee, not an employee, all those type of things. But then he ended his post and he said, "Look, I'm not advocating for IMBs. I'm not advocating for brokers. What I'm saying is, whatever platform serves your business best, pick that one. But don't be seduced because it's going to be you're 1099 and you have more deductions, or it's the broker channel. It appears that you get more top line revenue." Was his point. And so it's a pretty interesting point. I know that I think we've debated this before, talked about it before. And David, I know you and I don't think you and I have, I think we agree with the general premise: pick the platform that works best for you. I don't care if that's a servicer or a call center. I don't care if that's a credit union or a bank, IMB or a broker shop. Whatever your lane is, and that platform can serve who you serve best, pick that. Like if you're jumbo, ultra jumbo, and you're a private wealth client, pick a bank. If you're kind of weird, nichey, jumbo, new custom home construction, or kind of nichey manufactured home, something that a local credit union can do, choose that lane. Like pick the one that fits you best, whatever suits you best, right? But what I think Greg is saying, and I agree with that, don't be deceived on what you're signing up for. And Dave, and I'll give it to you in a second. The thing I argue is the thing that loan officers get seduced to being brokers, I think, for the wrong reason. And what they do is they go, "Oh, I'm going to get paid 300 basis points. I only earn 120 basis point commission at my IMB. 300 basis points, I'm going to get paid 3 times as much." But what they don't understand is the difference between above the line expenses and below the line expenses, right? And so in an IMB, all your expenses are pretty much above the line. So when you get paid your 120 basis points commission, it mostly comes to you. Now there's some exceptions. You might have to spiff your loan officer assistant, or there might be some exceptions, but mostly you get your whole commission. Where when you're a broker, you're 300 basis points. Okay, let's start paying all your uncollected credit reports, your uncollected appraisal fees. Let's do all your marketing fees. Let's do your desk rent. Now you got to pay your taxes. You got to pay all your professional services, right? You got to pay for your for your benefits. And once you start to deduct all that, and I've dated. Matter of fact, remember I told you before, I had Dino, who I love, on my first podcast, and we didn't debate which is better. We just talked about the economics, and we lined the economics up. Okay, you start at 300, I start at 120, you end at 40, I end at 115. Okay, now all that doesn't matter if 40 basis points gets me to serve my clients, which in Dino's case, you would argue, yeah, but my rate's super lower than yours, and I have no barrier to who I can serve. Good, I totally appreciate it. Respect that, dude. But don't tell me it's because you make more money. Tell me that's because how you think you serve your client better, right? And that's the thing I would argue. You really have to pay attention to those things above the line and below the line. And certainly, one of the things that I think the broker channel really grew by really collecting all the unwashed low producers that IMBs and banks, like kicked out because they were so expensive. Well, if you're a broker, if you take a loan officer on that does one loan a year, you don't care. You have no overhead for that loan officer. You just get one loan a year. But if you're an IMB and that loan officer costs you $3,000 or $4,000 a month with benefits and subscriptions and all this other stuff, you care a lot, right? And so the point is, if you're a loan officer, and I think brokers work if you're a mega loan officer or if you're a low producer loan officer. Like if you work out of your trunk, you charge every one of your clients for credit reports, you collect every one of your appraisal fees, you have no assistant, you use contact processing, you have no marketing, you have no mail, expenses. Well, you're going to optimize your pay in the broker channel, right? And similarly, if you're a $1 billion producer a year, you're going to build an organization that's going to be highly efficient around you. I think that works really, really well. I also think that there are broker platforms that give you, unique advantages with scale and technology. And United Wholesale Mortgage's platform is exquisite, I think. So I understand that too. But I'm saying, eyes wide open, pick the best platform for you, and just study it, figure it out. Dave, what do you think?
I've got a question that I'll ask in just a second, but I have no strong opinions or thoughts on this other than the fact that I don't know many people that have gone the broker route other than just a few examples. And the only examples I can think of are they were top tier loan officers, top 100 or close to, and they went on to start their own brokerage. But you said something there that struck something with me. Do you know what the average loan loan amount loan number per year or per month for a broker versus a loan officer at an IMB? Because you
Yeah,
you
the
you
last
kind of
time
made it sound like there's a lot more lower producers in the on the brokerage side.
Yeah, the last time I saw this, Dave, which was maybe 6 months ago, a retail loan officer that is an IMB was doing like three times more volume than a wholesale loan officer, a broker. But that's also because the broker has no floor; like they'll take anybody. So it wasn't 100% a fair number. And another thing, in the last year and a half, David, a lot more quality loan officers have migrated to the broker channel.
Mm,
So that number is substantially changing. And then with United Wholesale Mortgage, which probably has either the best or the second best technology platform in the business, client retention, AI technology with Mia, they're starting to get great productivity gains with the loan officers that completely adopt their platform. So that number is changing. The advantage that the retail platform had with supporting volume is starting to shift a little bit because places like United Wholesale Mortgage are figuring it out and probably even producing a stronger platform.
mm. Why do you think there's been a flood of, or not necessarily a flood, but why are more people going that route?
To a broker, well, one is a lot of loan officers get frustrated that IMB loan officers get frustrated their companies aren't making decisions in their best interest.
Well,
And
that's
whether,
always been the case, though.
yeah, but you got to remember, IMBs are struggling to make a profit. And so they're having to make critical decisions that they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have made those
Mhm,
decisions, which loan officers feel trespass against them. And
mhm,
once you say, okay, I got to fire your assistant, or hey, I got to start charging for credit reports, or I got to start doing these things, the loan officer goes, well, if you're going to do that, I might as well be a broker, right? And the IMB is in a tough spot because they're losing money. That's the thing that's what I love negotiating with brokers. Like, hey, IMB subsidize loan officers' income because they lose money on every deal they do. Like, you think you get paid better than that with a broker? United Wholesale Mortgage is subsidizing you that way. But you know, uh, and so when you start to feel like you don't have a voice or you're being lied to, and also by the way, and now for the first time in our history, David, United Wholesale Mortgage is presenting a competing platform that may be better than most IMB platforms. Like
mm,
okay, I can understand why you might go there. So it's just a changing dynamic. It's very very different.
gotcha. You wanna talk about age and ethnicity?
I do. age and ethnicity, David. This is such a good report. This right here, it actually came out as a chart of the week from the NBA, and I think we have the chart. And and we're not going to get into the weeds, and you can't read the chart because it's super small. So I apologize, everybody. But there's just a couple of numbers we want to pay attention to, David, and we want to just do it in a more conceptual way. The first thing is I think that the home ownership rate in the United States is around, if I remember right, 63 and a half. I can't read that chart either, but I think it's around 63 and a half. It had peaked at 69% during the heydays of no income, no assets, you can buy a home. And of course, we know what that led to. We led that to mass foreclosures and short sales. It was probably irresponsible lending, whatever the reason was, but probably that extra bit of home ownership wasn't responsible and caused a whole bunch of pain. So, given the current conditions, which I'll qualify in a minute, 63% home ownership rate is probably a pretty healthy rate in America, right? So, if you look at the headline number, I'd go, that's okay. Now, you can change that number a few ways, I think. One, by actually building affordable housing, which we're going to talk about later, so I won't get into that. But building affordable housing could bring home ownership to more people. That would raise the home ownership rate. But the thing is, and this is what I really loved about this article, because in the article they talked about, okay, there's the actual number and there's the normative number, and the normative number is what we aspire to. Like, what should we aspire to as a country? What should we aspire homeownership to be to? And when I found that concept fascinating, what I found really more fascinating is when they broke it down to homeownership by um, by generation or homeownership by ethnicity. And for me, what really jumped out is the home ownership rate for African Americans is 28.3% behind white Americans. Right now, there's not an apples to apples because we don't know their qualifying numbers. I'm not even saying that it's unfair. And by the way, the home ownership rate for African Americans has been growing in the United States. It's actually been improving, which is a good sign. But it still, falls well below other ethnicities. And so, from a normative perspective, what should we aspire to as a country? And I don't even mean socially, and from a macroeconomics, like when people own homes, when people have security, when people start to build wealth, you start to reduce that wealth gap. You start to have people that become content and good and happy citizens, and they're productive, and that's kind of what we want. And so, from a normative standpoint, I think there's opportunities for us, definitely with homeownership by ethnicity. I think there's opportunities for creating homeownership for entry level, which is a whole mess we talk about almost every week, David. How do you create entry level homes? I think there is some opportunities with first time home buyers, although I think that's more cultural than it's economic, quite honestly. But it's a very interesting study, and I appreciated the MBA putting it out. What are your thoughts?
Just sorry, McKenna, leave that graph on. So the left one is by age, the right one is by ethnicity. Do you know? Because the bottom line, the yellow line, is for people under 35, if I'm reading that right, with my old man
Yeah,
glasses
first time
on.
home buyers. Yep. Yep.
So what age does it go down to? Does it go to 18? Does it go to 21? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's actually 18 to 35.
Okay, so because most of the other are 10-year gaps or spans, this one is a lot more than that, but that's quite a bit lower than all the rest. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess you got to factor in first time home buyers and people coming of age and everything.
McKenna, you want to come on?
Do we
She's
have a
like, no.
question for?
Yeah, I do. I do. So, McKenna,
That's,
you're in that age group. Do you want to buy a house?
I mean,
Is
I
that top of your mind
do. It's
soon?
definitely not top of my mind. I mean, first thing in my mind is, all right, like I'll probably get an apartment or I'll, move somewhere else, but um I mean, I would like to have a house mostly because I would like to decorate it. So that's kind of my main motivation for wanting a home is to just kind of have a space like that can be mine, in a way that is not mine that it would be if I were renting. But that's kind of my biggest motivation for wanting a home. But it's definitely not something that's on the top of my mind.
Now, McKenna, I'm guessing career, maybe marriage, babies, maybe a higher priority. Like figuring those things out, those big life events, and then
Yeah.
probably a home comes in someplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, McKenna, we've talked about this, and Dave, we talked about this. You know, single women are buying houses at 4 times the rate as single men. So, I mean, you're the advanced, gender right now, McKenna, and you still, it's not your number one priority from where you sit, which is a societal change. I don't know if it's an economic change, right? And Dave, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about affordability later, so I don't want to jump into it. What's the affordability barrier? How much is real and how much isn't real? But I just don't think it's as much as a priority as it was for your grandparents. Or, where the real housing boom came when home ownership rates just absolutely catapulted was after World War II with the GI Bill, and then it was just the government's intent to put as many veterans into homes as possible and made it part of their VA benefits. And that just it's something like it jumped home ownership by like 15 points in less than a decade. It was incredible. And some people argue we need that same kind of, you know, initiative today for people today. I just think our values are different. So I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, just our culture is different than what it was. You
Yeah.
you went all the way back to World War II, the greatest generation. This it's just that we live in a different world. People just don't. They're getting married later. They're having kids later. Staying with their parents longer. Is that a bad thing? Some people argue it is. Some people argue it's not.
Yeah, I can see after going off the war, either one of the any of the wars, that when you got back, you'd want just a piece of land or your own home and just
Hmm.
someplace in the world that calls your own that was kind of felt secure. I totally understand that. We just don't feel that same way today. I don't
Yeah,
think.
that's a good point. Who goes off to a war such as a world war and comes back and lives with their parents?
It
That
could
that would be
happen. You know
strange.
what I mean? You probably just crave and just like get God, please give me a place on earth that has peace.
Yep, yep, yep. You ready to move on to our rapid fire run?
I am.
Do you think we can keep these to 3 minutes?
No.
Me neither. How rent prices across major cities?
Yeah, this is just David. This isn't a super important topic. It's just super. It's just interesting. The most expensive place to live in the world is New York at $8,400 a month. Then it's Singapore, Boston is 6,000. Then it's London, San Francisco is 5,400. The next in the United States is Chicago, then Los Angeles, and so forth. But here's one of the misnomers. So one, it's just interesting, where are expensive places to live. But here's a misnomer you hear all the time: home ownership is 3 times more expensive than renting. Right? That is the most baloney number I've ever heard in my whole life. Yeah, renting and almost said a bad word there. And renting and bum shucks, Mississippi is 3 times cheaper than buying a house there. But if you live in New York, you live in Los Angeles, you live in San Francisco, you live in San Diego, you live in a big city, renting is expensive and it's not always cheaper. Those numbers are so skewed. But anyway, this is mostly just titillating. Look at what rents are around the world. And it was a nice visual capitalist graphic. And so we thought we'd throw it in there.
8,003 for a three-bedroom in New York, over $8,000. Wow.
I bet it's more than that, David. I bet you'd have a hard time finding an actual 3 bedroom apartment in New York for $8,000. I bet you'd have a hard time finding a 1 bedroom apartment and where you'd want to live, not like in the projects where you want to live. I bet you can't even find a 1 bedroom apartment for 10 grand.
Yeah. What's the average salary in New York City?
Yeah, what happens is nobody actually rents a 3 bedroom apartment on their own. They're going to have like 6 people living there.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. But this is where this is so false too, because I guarantee you, you and I would not live in a 3 bedroom apartment for $8,000 in New York. I'm just guessing it's probably not going to meet our quality of life. That we're going to feel life threatened in that building.
Yeah, I mean, I know how much renting is here in the Charlotte area because my mom rents, and she has a small one-bedroom apartment, and she could probably get a place, buy a home for about the same, which is
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Because I
yeah.
mean, I haven't heard you said the headline is that owning a house is 3 times more than renting? That's not what I've heard.
Yeah, it's a very common, I don't, housing is always under an assault, but it's almost like a class warfare. I don't own a home, but I don't want to because it sucks anyway, kind of thing. Like a self fulfilling prophecy, but it's just so false. But
Yeah.
we can move on. We can save time on this one. How about
Alright.
that? 3 minutes.
We nailed it right at 3 minutes. New single family home size trends. This is a somewhat of a similar, there's some tie-ins to the last topic.
This is really important because this gets to affordability. So back in, was it David? I don't remember 1950. Do we have the chart here? So I'm just not making up numbers, which I'm happy to. So this is the number I think it was about. But back in 1950, the average home size was like 950 square feet, less than 1,000 square feet. Today it's 2,400 square feet. And today's kids go, houses is so unaffordable. My great grandparents had so lucky they bought a house for $20,000, and my grandparents for 50,000, and my parents for 75,000. Yeah, they bought 1,000 square foot freaking shack. That's how they started because it was acceptable back then. And by the way, builders can even make a profit building 1,000 square foot house, right? That's how you solve affordability. Figure out how to get builders to build 1,000 square foot houses again. But we now are accustomed to poverty is 2,500 square feet. I got 10 TVs. I got two or three, refrigerators. I got 3 cars, and woe is me is so expensive. Really? Is that the problem? Like, if I can figure out how to put you in 1,000 square foot house to get you on the road to home ownership, to get you a road wealth, through home ownership, like that's the solution. It just drives me batty. That's where we've gone so far off the path, Dave. Anyway, that's the whole reason for this topic. Just let me rant for that 1 minute.
I'm surprised that the square footage is actually coming down in the last 10 years. What do you attribute that to?
Because people can't afford to buy houses, so builders are trying to figure out how to make them cheaper.
But yeah,
Small, smaller
but they're
lots,
not go
smaller
but they're
houses.
not going down. Sorry, they're not going down as low as they need to improve affordability though, right?
No, they're making smaller houses and smaller lots with fewer amenities, but they can only there's a floor, David, for how low they can sell a price, how low they can sell a house. Like if all the added government cost and permitting and delays and all that stuff let's say the baseline is $200,000, then you sure as hell can't sell a house for 150,000, right? And that's even before you put your cost of materials, your labor, all the other stuff, right? But if you started this huge disadvantage to start with, you can't build a house, right? You just simply can't build a house. And so that's why you don't see it getting smaller because it wouldn't do them any good. They can't go below a certain price point because they can't create margin below a certain price point.
Yeah. In our next our next rapid fire, all three of these I think are interlinked and connected, right? The next one we're talking about incomes, which can affect this one and the previous one as well. So let's move on to that one.
This
Oh
is
no,
so
we
important.
we had some more slides on that one. Oh well.
That's all right. We're good. We're totally good. This is really important because David, there's reality and then there's the vibe. And for the last decade and a half, the vibe has been misery. Everybody's suffering. And by the way, here's how the vibe goes. In surveys, this is really true. In surveys, how do you think your neighbors are doing, or how do you think your community is doing? How do you think people are doing around you? And the survey comes in horrible. Like 80% think they're doing just miserably. And then it says, but how do you think you're doing? And 75% of people say, pretty good, right? It's like, it's like everywhere else in the world that's what we see is misery. But hey, I'm doing okay. And so the vibe has been the economy is horrible, my wages are falling, inflation is skyrocketing, I can't afford anything, right? But the truth is, wages have been rising faster than inflation now for I think almost 5 years. And net wages are still strong. Net wages are wages over expenses, which include inflation, are still super strong. the solution to the housing affordability issue, other than building affordable houses, in case anybody's listening, anybody wants a cheat sheet, build affordable houses. But the solution also is rising wages with stagnant housing prices, right? So if my wage keeps going up, but the houses keep costing the same, the affordability issue will solve itself over a few years, right? And we talked about this today earlier, David. The reason house prices are high because we pulled demand forward when we artificially drove interest rates down to zero, right? That created all sorts of demand, which created rapid appreciation, where they appreciated 50% in 3 years. And so instead of appreciating 5% per year for the next 10 years, we pulled it forward. Well, now we're going to have to stagnate prices for the next 5 or 6 years to let wages increase to solve the affordability issue. Make sense?
Yep. Do you see that happening?
And so that,
Do you think that trend is going to continue?
yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do. You know why I think that trend's going to continue, David? Because I think GDP is on fire. I think that productivity, which is what drives GDP, is really being driven by technological advances, and that's going to continue to drive wages. And I think that's going to be a super positive thing.
Are robots going to help?
Robots should help productivity. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be displaced in their jobs, but then there's going to be new jobs created. Now, the new jobs created will probably lag behind the displacement, so there'll be some short-term pain. But I think overall productivity is really going to rise in the world, and specifically the United States, and that will drive wages up, right? Because if me and my free robot together, like if me by myself, I can build one house a year, but me and my 100 free robots can build 100 houses a year, I'm going to make more money.
Didn't Amazon just lay off like 35,000 employees?
They just laid off, I think it was 16,000 employees. But David, that is a very small number. It's less than 1% of the workforce, and it's also it was from workers that weren't necessary. They were already dramatically overstaffed, right? Dramatically overstaffed. It's not cutting on their productivity. Like this, I think Wolf on Wolf Street had a great analysis of this. All this, like alarmists about, there's layoffs, there's layoffs. Well, there's about 1% layoffs in the workforce every month, just general. And so when a large company lays off 1%, that's a natural flow. Because here's the thing: what they're not mentioning is Amazon is still hiring, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, McKenna is going through the slides is showing how wages have been up, depending on whether it's wages and salary or whether it's government employees or self-employed or landlords. It's all up around 3 or 4%. And if it's and government transfers are up 8%, right? And all this wages being up over inflation doesn't take into account capital appreciation, like appreciation from homes, from our stocks or bonds, which is a wealth effect. But David, yeah. So there you go. How's that? I answered your question. I've got lots of
slides. All right. Our final topic is our favorite one, maybe. It's all about hot sauce. And Ron, I know we usually try to tie our topics into housing. I don't think we can do that with this one, but maybe. Let's see.
I'm not, David. I wouldn't even try to talk about it in housing. But there's been a whole sea change on the world's and Americans' flavor characteristic. And it really happened, it's really interesting, David. Cheetos rolled out their Flaming Hot Cheetos in 1989. And it was a dud. Nobody liked them. It was too hot. It's too spicy. No. I was going to start ripping on Cheetos, but I don't want to do that. But you know what it is today? Flaming Hot Cheetos are the #1 spicy, salty snack in the United States with $3 billion in sales a year.
Billion?
No, I don't even. $3 billion.
Jeez.
They sell that little bag of cardboard, spicy cardboard they get $3 billion a year. I don't even know if it's qualified as food, but I mean it's $3 billion a year, right? And what's interesting, and I think let's go to the first chart. This is super interesting. Condiments in general, you can see the consumption of condiments are dramatically dropping. You can see here soy sauce, mayonnaise, mustard, barbecue sauce, ketchup. They've all declined in use from 2099 to 2024. But in the same time, hot sauces like Tabasco and Frank's and all that stuff has increased 13%. There's a couple of reasons that are hypothesized. First, hot sauces are cheaper than these other condiments. And they actually have a huge bang for the buck. So these restaurants that are having a hard time making money, they have no margin. They're like, okay, I'm going to get rid of my expensive soy sauce. I'm going to put in some Tabasco instead. And so instead of having soy rice, I'm having Tabasco rice, you know. And not only that, in today's world, that now has appealing marketing to me. So you're giving your consumers what you want. It's a cheaper ingredient, and you get to raise your prices. So every restaurant in the world wants to now offer spicy food, and that's why I think the next chart shows how the menus with spicy names in them has grown dramatically. And now it faces fruit. And by the way, spicy restaurants have now overtaken have overtaken pizza and coffee shops. It's great, right? So spicy is overtaking it. But there was another hypothesis, Dave, that I read a different article, and that was with so many people on health plans and things like GLP drugs and so forth, they can't eat a lot, but they crave huge flavor. Like if I'm only gonna have 3 bites of food, make it count. Like burn up my mouth. Like give me something to live for. These 3 bites better change my life, right? It can't just be wholesale. Like make it count for something, and that's had an impact too. But David, you had a hypothesis on what else is having an impact, and it's true. You go read the article; they actually listed in the article.
Well, there's actually two things. On a lot of the charts that we see, behaviors, trends, a ton of stuff changed in 2020, 2019, 2020, and we know why, COVID. But I think there's something to do with the fact that we we as a family definitely eat in, cook at the house more than we used to. We cook every night. When I say we, it's pretty much Kelly, but we cook pretty much every night. We rarely go out to eat anymore, which we used to do that. Muted myself. We used to go out once, twice, sometimes 3 times a week to go out and eat. Now, I think the way people changed over COVID, where you had to cook or were forced to cook more, if not solely, that I think people have just their habits have changed, and I think that's one reason why I think hot sauces and spicy foods have gone up because people are just experimenting more. But I also think that the YouTube sensational sensation show Hot Ones has contributed to this because it's been going on for a while now, way before 2020. I don't know what year they started. I think it's going on 10 years old. I'm not sure, but it got really popular about 5 years ago or so now, to the tune where they get millions and millions and millions of views from their videos. I think that's a contributing factor to this as well.
David, I agree. And before I comment on Hot Ones, I will say there's a couple other contributing factors. One, there's been a lot of immigration from South
Mm,
American countries that kind of favor hot sauces. And then there's been a lot of immigration
good
from
point.
African countries that also really like hot sauces. And so that's had influence just, on the society. And then I think too that generally speaking, food has gotten very bland, and hot sauces bring flavor back. As food gets more mass, manufactured. But David, you turned me on that Hot Ones show the other day. I loved it. It was great, man. That if you guys haven't seen that, that guy's one of the best interviewers I've ever seen. It was awesome, and it made me want to try they do 10 hot sauces on it. I want to try like 5 of them.
Yeah, don't try the one that always gets everyone is the bomb.
The bomb was the second hottest one on today's show that I watched earlier today with Matthew Connie. But let's do the last chart of that because it's going to be surprising to people. What
All right.
states actually buy the most hot sauce? Which will act as a proxy for who likes it hot. And New Mexico, which is number one, not a big surprise. I think they buy, on average, people consume something like 31.5 ounces of hot sauce a year. But Alaska is number two.
Mm,
Like, I don't understand that at all. Do you?
no,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
Alabama is the least?
I don't, that's not surprising either.
I just give him my ketchup.
I would have been surprised if it was the Northeast. But anyway, there you go. Had nothing to do with mortgages. Kind
Are
of
you
interesting.
surprised
Maybe
at
the
Colorado at all?
no, because that's like Southwestern a little bit. when you go through Colorado, you have a lot of Southwestern food. But David, how we could link this back to mortgage or real estate? Consider giving a hot sauce, assortment box as a home closing gift.
There you go. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
create that one and we'll sell it as a little Nessie product, a hot sauce
Oh, that's great.
package.
Costco was selling a little hot sauce kind of kit. It had, I want to say, like 30 different hot sauces. It was like $45 in a wood crate with a glass window. That'd make a
Hmm.
great closing gift, you know?
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with our final topic, our AI prompt tip of the week.
Yeah, David, I'm so sorry. The thing I'm a little disappointed on this, David, because we don't actually have the source email, which I just recommend. You sign up for AI's, get on AI, open AI's email list, and you get really cool suggestions, workbooks, training books. Last week they said, hey, look, here's another way you can use your AI. Here's how you should use it for writing. And if you go to the first chart, or the only chart, if you go to this, so you can't see this, but these are boxes, each one of these categories. And so let's say my boss sent me a long list of tasks, turn it into the email into a checklist. If you actually click that arrow, it would take you to ChatGPT, and it would also give you like 6 prompts to give ChatGPT. So each one of these, when you clicked on it, took you to ChatGPT, and then actually listed the prompts to put into your engine, right? And it was just super helpful. So it's not. I don't think we wanted to comment on this so much as say, hey, look at all these great prompts. It was more subscribe to OpenAI and get on their list. And every few days, you're going to get stuff like this. Now, this is a really simplistic one. I can tell you the one this week is phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. But that's just so that you can start learning more about your AI tools. Because that's one of the things, how do you learn about what's your method of learning about your AI tool? And are you getting better? What's the shortcuts? Is it just, is it tribal knowledge, or do you have an actual, learning strategy for how to get better?
And how many newsletters do you subscribe to, Ron?
For AI?
No, in general.
Well, I get 7 great daily AI newsletters, which are fantastic. But how many news? I don't want to get into that. But David, my content, has really changed the last year or two. Where now it's like 10% of the total content that I consume is technology or AI. It might even be 15%.
And you read a lot of information. You consume a lot of content on a daily basis.
I do consume a lot of content on a daily basis. That's true.
What's your number one, other than audio books? What's your number one source or type of media that you ingest?
Well, books would definitely be number one. Podcasts could be number two. Industry, industry publications, newsletters might be number three, somewhere in there, something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Ron, where are you going to be when we go live next week? Where in the world are you going to be then?
I think I'm going to be in Turkey.
And you are where right now?
Let's just call it Morocco.
Morocco to Turkey. And then you'll have one more week at sea, or will you be home by then after that?
As a reminder, if you're watching this, I live in a gated community in Scottsdale, and most of my neighbors carry around sidearms. And like we have the best neighborhood, patrol. And so when I'm not there, my house is safe. I'm just letting you know. So if you're a bad person going, oh, he's gone for a month, my house is safe. And Joe, my neighbor, Mr. Marine Colonel, you got my back.
Yeah, sorry, Ron. Maybe I posed there a little security risk for you there.
No, I'm just joking with you, David. We do though. I'm not kidding you. My neighborhood is locked down, man. I mean, because we're in Arizona, like everybody carries a gun. We have active neighborhood watch in my neighborhood. Like I would I would pity the person that just knocked on my door.
You've told me about the gun-toting walkers that you have in your neighborhood before. That sounds fun.
Not only gun toting walkers, I mean, like they're all like you could be in a walker, like a walker, and you still have like a gun. I mean, like half my neighbors carry a sidearm, which is great. And then of that half of them have like Doberman Pinschers or German Shepherds. It's like double layer security.
All right. Well, if you've joined us, if you're watching this later, we appreciate you. We go live typically every Thursday. Today was a little bit off being Friday, but we'll be live next Thursday, I believe, or
I
Friday.
think we're Wednesday. Are we Wednesday next week?
We're all over the place. We're going live next week.
We'll be here. We got great topics next week.
Yep. All right, guys. Ron, have a great rest of your day cruise at sea. Tell Belinda hi.
Cheers.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.